Okay, so let's get right into it. When you hear the word cybersecurity, you probably think of, super complex code and shadowy figures and hoodies, right? But it's not some abstract, scary thing. It's really just a system of risks, defenses, and people that we can actually understand. So in this explainer, we're going to unpack this whole digital battlefield. Let's just start with a number to really put this into perspective. 92 million pounds. That's the staggering cost to the UK's National Health Service from just one ransomware attack called WannaCry. And this wasn't just money. This led to over 19,000 canceled appointments. It just goes to show you how a single digital attack can cause massive, expensive disruption in the real world. And you have to remember, behind a number like that, it's not just code. It's people. Determined individuals and groups. The modern threat isn't some faceless line of code. It's a whole community of hackers with their own reasons, their own motivations, and frankly, some incredible skill. And the scale, it can be almost unbelievable. It's not just public services like the NHS. Back in 2014, one of the biggest banks in the world, JP Chase, was hit. Get this. Hackers got into 90 of their servers and exposed the personal info of 76 million personal accounts and 7 million small businesses. That's 83 million accounts. It just proves that no one is too big to be a target. So when you're facing these massive numbers and, invisible threats, how in the world do you even begin to fight back? Well, it all starts with having a common language. To build any kind of defense, you first have to agree on what you're protecting and what the risks actually are. To really get the challenge here, you have to kind of rethink what an asset is. See, we're used to tangible things, a car, a house, physical stuff. But information assets, they're totally different. They have no physical form. Their value can actually go up when you combine them with other info. And here's the wild part. They can be copied 1 million times without losing any value. That just changes all the rules of the game. And this diagram, it just brilliantly lays out the core logic. So a threat comes along and exploits a vulnerability. That action exposes an asset, and boom, that creates risk. So what's our defense? Management. All the policies and tech we put in place to guard against those threats and bring that risk down. It's this constant balancing act between all these pieces. Okay, so we've got the concepts down. Now let's meet the actual culprits. What are the weapons being used out there on this digital battlefield? First up, the old classic, the computer virus. This is the one most of us have heard about. It's basically malicious code that has to latch on to another program or a document to spread, kind of like a real virus needing a host cell. Once it's in, it starts making copies of itself and can cause all sorts of damage. Next up is the worm, which is a different beast altogether. A worm is way more independent. It's a self-replicating program, sure, but it doesn't need to attach to a file. It can just travel across networks all by itself. Its main weapon is just pure consumption. It replicates so much that it just eats up all your system's resources, slowing everything down to a crawl. And then there's the modern-day digital kidnapper, ransomware. This is the stuff that hit the NHS. It doesn't just damage your files, it encrypts them, completely locking you out of your own data. And then it demands a ransom payment, usually in crypto, to give you the key back. It's direct, it's nasty, and it's brutally effective. And here's the crucial thing to remember. These aren't just random programs popping up out of thin air. They are built and deployed by a highly skilled community. This quote from an ex-hacker, it just perfectly captures the situation. Organizations are often completely outmatched. It's like they're walking into a gunfight with a spoon. So with all that in mind, how can anyone possibly defend themselves, right? You can't just build a single wall and hope it holds. The real answer lies in a strategic, multi-layered approach to defense. The core concept here is called defense in depth. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like a medieval castle. You wouldn't just have one outer wall, no way. You'd have a moat, then an outer wall, then an inner wall, and guards posted at every single gate. Each layer is designed to slow down an attacker, because you have to assume that no single defense is ever going to be perfect. So this whole model really breaks down into 3 key phases. First, you've got prevention. That's your front line, trying to keep attackers out in the first place. Then you've got detection. These are your watchmen on the wall, looking for anything suspicious that might have slipped through. And finally, you have response. That's your game plan for when an attack happens, to contain the threat and fix the damage. And for each of those layers, you have specific tools in the toolbox. For prevention, you've got things like firewalls and encryption. For detection, you have your classic antivirus software, but also more advanced intrusion detection systems. And for response, there's really sophisticated stuff like malware sandboxes, where you can safely analyze a threat, and network traffic analysis to see exactly what an attacker is doing. But here's the thing. A single fortress, no matter how deep its defenses are, can't fight a global threat all by itself. Those worms and ransomware attacks, they don't care about national borders. So, because the threat is global, the response has to be global too. And that's exactly why you're seeing nations around the world working together on this like never before. And the key player in this whole global effort is something called a CSIRT, which stands for Computer Security Incident Response Team. The easiest way to think of these guys is like the emergency services for cybersecurity. They're the central hub for reporting incidents, analyzing threats, and coordinating a big picture response on a national level. And we're not just talking about a handful of countries here. I mean, just look at this table. It makes it so clear that there is a massive global network of these teams. From Japan to Poland, Nigeria to New Zealand, these organizations are a vital alliance, sharing info to fight threats that can cross the entire planet in seconds. Okay, so we've talked about threats, we've talked about all this cool tech and global alliances. It's so easy to think of this as a war fought by algorithms and servers. But even with the absolute best technology and cooperation, every single defense we've talked about can be undermined by one thing: us. The human factor isn't just a part of the equation. In a lot of ways, it is the equation. This quote from the Africa Cybersecurity Report just nails it. Think about that castle again. You can have the highest walls, the deepest moat, but if a guard gets tricked into lowering the drawbridge for an enemy in disguise, the whole fortress falls. That is exactly what happens in the digital world. One clever email, one moment of carelessness, and you've bypassed billions of dollars in security. The strongest lock in the world is useless if someone just gives away the key. And this human challenge, it's really on two fronts. It's not just about everyday people making a mistake. It's also about a critical shortage of experts on the front lines. This survey data is so telling. A whopping 68% of businesses say more training is needed. That's the drawbridge problem, right? But look at the other number. More than a quarter are worried about the lack of qualified professionals. So we're not just lacking awareness, we're lacking defenders. We're trying to guard the castle with way too few soldiers. So that brings us to the big final question, doesn't it? We focus so much on hardening our technology, on writing better code, but with threats evolving at lightning speed, maybe our biggest vulnerability isn't digital at all. Maybe it's cultural, in how we train our people, how we value security, and how we build a collective sense of awareness. That might just be the real battlefield for the future.